There we go. Hi, everyone. I'm Jaeger Rosenberg. I was the candidate here in the last election federally. And as we all know, the last election was not a good result for the NDP. We're down to 7 seats nationally. We got less votes than the Bloc Québécois. And that's not good because the Liberal Party has moved way to the right. They're basically conservatives now. Pierre Poilievre and the Conservative parties are now basically fascists, and they've moved way to the right. And now there's a huge gap in Canadian politics where there's no really left-wing progressive option. And that makes it so important that the NDP is able to rebuild and that we do it in communities like ours. The NDP's unfortunately never won federally here in West Vancouver, Sunshine Coast, Sea to Sky Country, partially because our borders are not very well drawn, and partially just because we haven't made enough of an effort, you know, and we need to make that effort. So we have, up to 4 years till the next election, probably less. And it's all our responsibility to make sure we build on what we have strong. We have a very strong provincial base here on the Sunshine Coast. West Van is held by the Greens provincially. They're really strong and environmental. And we need to work to build on that and build something better so that in the next election, we can be a real contender to win this riding and give British Columbians and Sunshine Coast, West Vanners, and Sea to Skyers a real option. And we have 5 great leadership candidates that are offering that. And so far, we have 2 of them on the Zoom. The other 2 said they're coming. We'll see if they join. And I'm hoping as many of you as possible will step up and join our executive. It's not that much work, but it gives you a chance to connect with the community and fight for what you believe in. And I'd love to now introduce our leadership candidates to give a five. Okay, the format we're going to do. Each candidate, I'm going to give them 5 minutes to give their spiel, give their presenting themselves. And then after 5.5 minutes, I'll cut them off, go to the next candidate. And then after we have all the candidates done, we're going to do like 20 to 30 minutes of questions. And we're going to allow questions on the floor. And I'll be moderating, making sure, things are still kept respectful and everyone keeps on time. And each question will try and keep to about a minute long answer. And we're going to just do a random order with the candidates. I drew lots beforehand. The first 3 candidates aren't actually here that came with the order. So I'm going to start with Rob Ashton, if you'd like to introduce yourself. And are we able to zoom in on his
No,
picture?
I've got to watch for adding participants.
Okay.
Hi, everybody. My name's Rob Ashton, as introduced. I'm running because I'm done with the ruling class in Ottawa, pretending that they know what it's like to wake up before sunrise and to fight through layoffs or to work overtime just to make ends meet. We're not just props for their speeches. We're the people who built this country. And it's time we write our own story. You see, I say it's time to elect someone who knows what it's like to worry about paying rent, to stretch every dollar, and to fight to give their kids a better life. Let me tell you, I didn't grow up with power. I didn't grow up with money. I grew up in Vancouver on the docks, working hard and getting my hands dirty, standing shoulder and shoulder with my fellow workers who hold this country together every single day. I'm running because I'm tired of watching working people getting kicked around. And I'm going to call it what it is. And this is all a class war. You see, we give billions of dollars in our taxes to groups like Stellantis and GM, and how do they repay us? They cut our jobs in Windsor and Ingersoll. You see, that's a class war. Galen Weston fixes the prices of bread to squeeze every single cent out of us. That, my friends, is a class war. When flight attendants are told that they should work for free, that's a class war. You see, the super rich are making off like bandits, and I've spent my entire life fighting the ruling class to give more power to working people. If there's one thing I've learned through the years, when we fight back, we win. And I say it's time Canadians had a real choice. Sure, we can pick the billionaire banker or the one who's never had a real job a day in his life, or we can fight like hell for what we deserve. You see, I'm ready to fight. This is no time for political games. This is the time to stand up for the people who make this country work. This is the time to fight for Canada. See, Trump's hate-fueled politics are crossing the border, dividing people here in Canada, and making life harder for us. See, every day we're reading about more job losses, factories closing, mills shutting down, services being cut, and we're losing jobs everywhere. See, I know how to take on bullies like Donald Trump. And there's only one way to do it. You stand up for Canadian workers and protect Canadian jobs. So, Prime Minister Carney, I got a message for you. You won't cut your way out of this crisis. Stop cutting good union jobs and start creating them. Hands off of our Canada Post. You need to protect those jobs. And yes, I agree there should be investment in our industries, but there needs to be strings attached to that money. And those strings, they better damn well mean Canadian jobs. See, every election we're told this story. The conservatives are on our side or the liberals got our backs, but when it's all over, the rich get richer. And who gets the bill? Us, working class Canadians. You see, I'm running to bring the NDP back to its roots, back to the docks, the mills, the factories, the classrooms, and the emergency rooms. Somewhere along the way, the NDP stopped being the voice of the working class. And I want to bring that voice back. I want to be that voice. Our party was built by the working class, for the working class. And come hell or high water, it will fight for the working class again. You see, when we stand together, when we fight, we win every single time. But this doesn't happen without you all. My friends, we built this country, every bridge, school, home, and hospital. Hell, we built Ottawa. So now I say it's our time to run it. So thank you for giving me the time. Again, my name's Rob Ashton. I'm a proud dock worker, and I'm a proud member of my union, the ILW Local 500. Thank you kindly.
We've got Heather in now, and
We just had Heather McPherson join. My order has her going after Avi. Rob had a minute and a half to spare, so good job keeping on time, Rob. So next, we're gonna have Avi Lewis come and introduce himself. So take it away, Avi.
Hello, everybody on the Sunshine Coast and other parts of the riding, where, as you know, I was incredibly proud to be your candidate in 2021. I think Rob is still pinned, you guys, if you guys want to. I mean, I love looking at Rob. I could look at Rob all day. He's got such a great look. Didn't you love that speech? People, Rob Ashton, we have a union president who's running to be leader of the NDP. It is pretty cool. And as you meet the other candidates, you will see that this year's field, we're very different people and we have different offers. We have all of the same shared values that New Democrats usually have. And you'll hear that too. But it's a fantastic time to be running for leader of the NDP. You live in coastal communities and in smaller communities. And in tourist dependent communities that are very connected to the ocean, to the mountains, to the pleasures of nature, the joys of connection with the natural world. My son was born in the Seashell Hospital 13 years ago when it was St. Mary's. And I met Jaeger at Clayton's in Seashell, where he'd been checking out my groceries for years. I remember I was after the 2021 election and I was checking out groceries, distracted, exhausted from the election. It was months after. And Jaeger was like, "You're that guy that ran for the NDP." I'm like, "Yep, that's me." He's like, "How do I do that? I want to do that." And then look, you had this spectacularly bright, incredibly capable young person who ran in the last election. It was a horrible election, the last one. We were overwhelmed with a wave of fear of Trump, of Polyev, and we got punished everywhere. I thought, Jaeger, you ran an excellent campaign in that riding. We ran a great one in Vancouver Centre, and it just didn't matter. We lost, as Heather knows all too painfully, we lost 18 of 25 of our caucus. And now we're back in this moment where the country's at a turning point. We're at a crossroads. And it is a terrifying time. I remember when there were thousands of people blocking the emergency room in the Seashell Hospital. That convoy movement has taken over the Conservative Party of Canada. And we now have extreme right-wing politics that are being normalized in Canada, like they are in the United States. We have, as Jaeger said, a Liberal Party that's gone so far to the right that they're sitting in the laps of their Conservative colleagues in the House of Commons. And at the same, and we are diminished. Heather and six other heroic NDP MPs are holding it down, trying to hold the government to account, fought their hardest over the last budget, largely opposed it, but at the same time didn't trigger an election, which nobody wants. And so they're in a very tough position there. So for all the difficulties of this moment, we also have huge opportunities. The country is in the mood for giant change. People know that things need to change and they need to change fundamentally, which is why our campaign from the very first day, 2 months and 4 days ago when we launched, has been putting forward big solutions as big as the crises we face. We've been laser focused on the everyday emergency of just getting by in an impossibly unfair economy, the cost of food, the cost of rent, people paying mortgages that are thousands and thousands of dollars a month, working harder and harder, unable to afford the basics of a dignified life. Public transportation is a disaster. I don't need to tell folks that on either in the Sea to Sky corridor or on the Sunshine Coast. I don't know if it's changed since I was last there, but if you wanted to take a bus from Squamish to Vancouver, you had to go to Whistler first, which is in the wrong direction. This is how ridiculous our public transportation system is in Canada. Okay, so we have massive problems. The market has failed to deliver a decent life with food, shelter, and transportation and affordable communications to Canadians at a price they can afford. And so we need government to step up with real solutions, not canceling the GST on essentials, which you wouldn't even notice when Jaeger is checking out your groceries at Clayton's. We actually need a public option for groceries. We need a massive public role in the build out of housing. We need a public developer employing public construction companies to build co-op, non-market, non-profit, supportive, public housing like never before. We need at least 1 million or more units of non-market housing of all those different types. We need fast and free public transportation. We need an electric bus revolution in Canada where we can make electric buses to reconnect our communities and put them in every community across the country made with Canadian steel and unionized labor. And from soup to nuts, from parts to the finished bus and the batteries, everything can be made in Canada with Canadian resources. These are the kinds of solutions that we need in a moment of crisis like this. And that's where our campaign has been putting forward the big swings. Thanks.
25 seconds to spare. Good job. Thank you, Avi. Next, I'd like to ask Heather McPherson to give your pitch, please. 5 minutes. Your 5 minutes.
Thanks. Thanks very much. Thanks for having me. This is great. It's always nice to be in a room full of New Democrats, even if it's a virtual room. So my name is Heather McPherson, and I am coming to you right now from Ottawa. I'm on the unceded and unsurrendered territory of Ottawa. Traditionally, I come from the traditional territories of Treaty 6 in Edmonton. I was elected in 2019 as a member of Parliament and have been a member of Parliament ever since. And yeah, for me, the vision that I have for this party is that now more than ever, we need a new Democratic Party that is welcoming people in, that is building a bigger table. I spoke a lot during my launch about this vision I have of making a table where more people feel welcome within our party. We know that in April during the election, people didn't feel that they could vote for the new Democratic Party. They didn't feel that this was the party for them, and that has to change. Workers across this country need a party that is fighting for them. And that's us. That's the new Democratic Party. It's always been the new Democratic Party. But we need to change the way that we talk to people. We need to change how we talk to people because people right now in Canada are struggling. They're struggling with the cost of living crisis. People are worried about their jobs. They're worried about whether or not they're going to be able to pay their bills. They're worried about whether they can afford groceries. And we need to be speaking to people not just about those problems, but how we're going to fix those problems, what the solutions are for those problems, the real solutions, the progressive solutions for dealing with the challenges that so many people across this country are dealing with right now. I brought forward my housing strategy just a week ago. I'm so proud of it. You should go to heathermcpherson.ca and take a look. But it is based on the idea that everybody has the right to a home, and that we have to take the corporations and the REITs out of home ownership. We have to, make sure that we're building massively in housing for people, below market, nonprofit, co-op housing, that we are working with Indigenous communities to support their initiatives on housing, what they need for their communities on housing. We need to come up with plans for jobs. We've got a great plan to get young people working, to expand a Canada Summer Jobs program to be year round, to get young people working on a climate core program, to be working on trades or in the care economy. Making sure that every student that graduates from post-secondary or from high school has the opportunity to start their life. And that could be a grant program that could help them out, $6,000 per year, that could help them out to pay for their post-secondary, pay for university, pay for college. But if they want to go into an apprenticeship program, there's money for that too. If they want to start a new business, if they need tools, if they need support because they have to come from a distant community, a remote community, we can put those things in place and then tie it to a mentorship program so that there's a path for that. We can be leaders in building projects across this country that are good for our economy, that are good for our climate, that are good for our future, that get Canadian workers working on projects, projects with Canadian materials. Let's build an energy corridor, a clean energy corridor. We cannot keep investing in things like pipelines. The North Gateway pipeline cannot go forward. That is a project that has no start. There is no way that we can repeal the tanker ban. That has to be in place because it protects our very vital coastline. You know, we've got to repeal things like C5 that take away the rights of Indigenous people, that take away our environmental protections. We need to do that. Those are the things that New Democrats can be fighting for, is to make sure that the future we're building, the economy we're building, is forward looking, is something where we're working towards, a positive future for everyone. And part of that involves our party and rebuilding our party and coming up with ways to support our riding associations, to nominate candidates earlier, to trust our members, to work with our members, to work with our caucus, and to make sure that we are all working on a Canada for everyone. Thank you.
Good job. 40 seconds to spare.
Boop,
Uh,
boop.
Tennille joined during that, so I'm going to briefly go over the rules just so she knows if I can find her in the meeting. So we're doing 5 minutes per candidate to introduce themselves, and then afterwards we're going to do 20 minutes of questions from the audience. And as moderator, I'm going to do my best to make sure each candidate has, a relatively even amount of time. So take it away, Tennille.
You'll see that I have an appendage with me currently.
Tennille, sweetness.
She's not feeling very great, and unfortunately, handing off a sick one is harder than a non-sick one. So, anyways, hi, I'm Tennille, liquid-stilled woman from Campbell River, BC, working mom. But the show must go on. I'm also a social worker. I have 3 jobs, and one of them is as the First Nation City Councillor for the seat of Campbell River. And now I'm running to be your next leader. I'm definitely someone who knows the everyday struggle, and I'm more than ready to tackle that head on. I believe we need a leadership that can really unite folks and bring in our current membership across the country, but also obviously expand that tenfold. I believe that I not only have a unique lived experience to others in the race, but also a unique skill set of navigating extreme difference and doing so in a way that builds a relationship and moves that difference into collective solutions. I don't just want to come at you with big, bold policies, although those can really build excitement and bring new folks into the fold. I want to bring you my genuine self. I want to bring you a winning strategy in the next election. I want to bring our party back to staring at the top spot of prime minister. And I would love to be the person to do that work for the party and for you. So let's do it. Well, let's start moving that hope into action, and let's bring forward our NDP into a brand new era, one that puts you, the people, right at the center. I feel like we've lost a little bit of that over the years. People, at least the messages that I receive, folks feel really just kind of left out of the narrative. They don't feel like they have a voice within the party, and that includes numerous candidates across the country. One of my first reach outs was actually to previous candidates in the last federal election and the last provincial elections to say, "Hey, what was your experience? What was it like? What would you have wished we had done better?" Because I really wanted to hear from their perspective how it felt, and there was definitely a lot of disheartening conversations around just feeling like you were put in this position and you really wanted to run hard and represent your area, but that you were kind of left in the dust and weren't really given the tools that you needed to do a good job and really felt left behind. So let's change that. Let's lean into the expertise of our candidates. Let's get them out loud and proud and super early. And let's gear up for that next election, because if we want to bring forward any of the amazing policy solutions, program ideas that you're going to hear about today, we really got to win that next election. So, Gila Kesla for the opportunity. Thanks for hosting, Jaeger. And yeah, let's, get into the conversation.
I'm wondering, maybe we should get questions here first. And
Yeah,
then I'll get
yeah,
questions.
yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Tennille. 2.5 minutes to spare, so lots of extra time. Because I just noticed on the screen it says Bull Forest. I'm using our president's computer, but my name is actually Jaeger Rosenberg for those on Zoom, just so you know, I'm your moderator. I don't see Tony McQuail having joined, unfortunately. For those who don't know, a few days ago, he suspended fundraising and encouraged people to donate to Tennille Johnson instead. So I don't know what's happening, if he's still running, what's happening with that, but that could be why he hasn't
He
joined.
is still running. He is still
Okay.
running. We can probably text him. I've got his number. I can see if I can text him and
I
see
can
if
I
he's
can do it.
coming.
Your hands are full.
That'd be super helpful.
Okay. So I'm gonna take questions from the floor. Anyone have a question?
Do you want me to keep order or?
He put his hand up
Okay,
first, so
yeah.
green hat.
George.
Yeah. We have cords on either end, but I will. One sec. I'll try my best. I'm gonna
Reverse screen. I'm not sure if it will.
replace spotlight. I'm gonna spotlight us instead, so everyone can see us. Hi.
Yes, it's me.
Yes, it's you.
Other than Heather, I heard almost nothing from the candidates about the environment. And given that the biggest problem we have in the planet right now is climate change, one of my real disappointments in the NDP is what's happened in BC, where it's largely been forgotten by the leadership. And I'm hoping, I know where Abby's coming from, but I'm hoping all the candidates could say something of substance about how we're going to take on climate change. It's not all about jobs. Jobs are important. Yes, our economy is important. Stopping that whack job from the south is important. But what about the biggest problem we have on the planet now?
Did you want to direct it towards a specific candidate?
No, I want to hear.
Okay. So we're gonna do 1 minute answer tops from each candidate. Let's start in reverse order. So let's start with Tennille. What's your answer to that question?
All the climate things. Yes, we need to stop. First of all, let's stop giving them $18 billion. Let's do that. We need to invest in the climate opportunities that are right in front of us. There are numerous nations across the country that have shovel-ready projects that want to invest in clean energy and renewables, and we're not doing it. In my backyard, so the We Will Come Nation, which is a sister nation to mine, they're working on a wind farm, which is absolutely amazing, but it's not going super fast. I'm sure it could go faster, and there's so many of those projects across the board. And I mean, we need to stop investing in new fossil fuel endeavors as well. Like that's not going to get us any closer to our climate change goals. It's only going to get us further away. So those are just my quick couple in our 60 seconds.
Okay, next, can we go with Heather? We're just gonna do the
Yeah.
reverse order if, yeah.
Sounds great. So I did talk a little bit in my intervention about this, but listen, you're absolutely right. We do need to be dealing with this. This is the biggest existential crisis for our time. Of course it is. Now, here's the thing. We often see it as being the climate or the economy, but that's not the case anymore. The climate and the economy are integrally tied together. So think about the opportunities we have. You know, as an Albertan, I'm so horrified, of course, by Danielle Smith and her shutting down investment in renewables. That's something we should all be very excited about is investing in renewables. You know, investing in big energy or big nation building projects like retrofitting our homes, like high speed rail, you know, like our transit systems within our cities. You know, there are these great opportunities where workers can have good family sustaining jobs. We can be building an economy for the future. This is an opportunity for us, and that's what I see with this. Let's take the opportunity that we have in front of us. Let's build a future where we're protecting our planet and we're making sure that we're building an economy for the future.
Oh,
Yeah,
does
you
this
can
mean,
just go, Avi. We're
does
just
that
doing
mean I'm
reverse order,
next?
so you can just start. Same with Rob.
Sure.
When it's your turn, you can just start.
You're assuming that we are dialed into what order we went in, but you remember we just came off 2 hours with Saskatchewan.
Yeah, fair
Uh,
enough, fair enough.
when it comes to forthright statements on climate change, everything my colleagues have just said are true. Indigenous renewable projects, Neil was talking about the largest single source of renewable energy products and projects in Canada today are coming from Indigenous communities, and all of the examples that Heather cited are true. And I take no joy in saying that they're also insufficient. If we don't name the driver of increased emissions in Canada, driving the storms and the wildfires, which are weighing on the lungs of our family members every single summer now. It is the fossil fuel industry, its power, its profits, its power over the political class, its stranglehold on the narratives that we are trapped in. And if we don't say that we have to not just stop subsidizing the fossil fuel industry, but get off fossil fuels as fast as humanly possible, then we're not actually talking for real.
That's time, Avi. Sorry. Tennille.
I
Hey,
think the
Rob,
point was
sorry.
made, Jaeger.
Rob, your turn. Replaceable.
All right, really quick. So look, yeah, BC burns for 4 months of the year now. It's disgusting. The Canadian government has to start building green economy for us because industry won't do it because they're making a lot of money off of it, and they're making a lot of money from the Canadian government. So we have to look at investing in jobs because jobs come hand in hand with this. And so to do that, we have to start up our own windmill companies, to build wind turbines, to build wind farms and other industries like that that will be green, that will help protect us and help change the tide of this climate change that we're fighting right now. So maybe we can actually have a summer that's not filled with smoke, not only in BC but across Canada. Thanks.
I think I saw Jeff next.
Yeah.
That's-
I'm gonna keep it so you can ask all the candidates, but just in the sake of getting to as many questions as possible, if you can target a specific candidate, that's preferable. You can ask all, but specific candidate target is a bit better. Stuff like okay, Jeff, you wanna?
Yeah, my question has to do with the military procurement, the expenses. We're now moving from a target of 2% of GDP to 5% of GDP. And we know what happens to countries that overspend in the military, they go under. I'd like to hear the perspective of each of the candidates in regard to the military spending.
Okay. Let's just do reverse order again. So Rob, you go first, and then we'll finish with Tennille.
Yeah, you bet. 5% is ridiculous. I have no issues with purchasing equipment or gear that keeps our troops safe and gives them the ability to defend themselves as well as Canada. But 5% of our GDP is inherently stupid. We are not a warmongering nation. We're a peacekeeping nation, and we better keep it that way. Thanks.
That'd be.
Yeah, Avi, you're next. I'll spotlight you.
clearly we don't have 1% of our GDP to spend on protecting ourselves from the climate emergency. We don't have 2% of spending to fix our healthcare system. And suddenly we're appeasing Donald Trump. That is the only point of Carney's shift, not just to the 5%, which is outlandish and hundreds of millions of dollars over the next decade, but just the 2%. He magicked up $9 billion in the blink of an eye between June and April to increase with magic money our spending up to the 2%. This is all about appeasing Trump. Yes, our troops are underpaid. There's a housing crisis for Canadian Armed Forces families. I talked to a military trainer the other day, and they regard this as a lot of big promises because they see it as appeasement of Trump's strategy rather than a real plan. But if they actually spend this kind of money, it will change the character and economy of this country, and we cannot let it stand. It's the wrong priority.
Want me to jump in here?
Yeah, your
Yeah,
turn,
okay.
Heather.
Thank you. You know, I have long been a proponent for building a more peaceful country. You know, I have been one of the most vocal people within the House of Commons on nuclear disarmament, on us having an important role within the TPNW, the Treaty for the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons. Very, very upset about the fact that we continue to send arms to Israel while they are being used in a genocide against Palestine. The Arms Trade Treaty is law in this country, and we are not adhering to it. We need to close loopholes on our military goods that are going to the United States to countries that are being used in genocides in another places. We need to stop trading with countries that are involved in civil wars and genocides within their communities. All of these things we've been pushing for a very long time. This is the position of New Democrats. And so for us to go to 5%, when this government during the election promised 2.5%, Mr. Carney has no mandate for that. He has no mandate from the Canadian public. Investing in things like the Golden Dome is absurd. It is an absurd militarization of our budget that is happening when we should be investing in peacekeeping, in international development. We should be investing in building a more peaceful world, not in this war machine.
Just because I see some hands up in the chat, I'm gonna say we're gonna keep going with the on the floor, like in-person questions first, just because people came here. And then afterwards, we'll do questions on the Zoom. And if you have a question and you're on Zoom, please send it in the chat. That's how we're gonna do questions on the Zoom. So just for anyone with their hands up. And now, Tennille, your turn.
Yeah, I don't disagree with my colleagues. We're definitely investing very heavy, very fast, and for reasons that I don't think are in the best interests of all Canadians. I do know that, like, yes, our military has been underfunded. Yes, folks have been underpaid for a long time. That's not uncommon of numerous industries and public services across the country. I absolutely am heartbroken that we still don't have a two-way arms embargo in place. We're still just capitalizing on selling pieces of machinery to the United States that are being used to murder children in other countries. If we're truly going to be like an anti-genocidal country and we're going to own that, that's not just within our own borders of Canada. That is how we need to treat other countries. And we need to enforce that and really live our values as Canadians, as Canada. So I don't have too much more to add than what's already been said, but that's definitely where my thoughts are at with that work. We have other crises that need some pretty significant attention in Canada for Canadians.
Thank you, Tennille. Time for the next question.
Jaeger, I got a little point of administration. Tennille, I messaged Tony, but it's like on a social media inbox. So if you have hands to text him now, he might jump in. Tony McWhale is the most Sunshine Coast of the candidates. Come on, you guys. People on the coast got to meet him.
Do we remember who was next for questions? Charles? Let's go with Charles, one of our honorary lifetime members.
Hi, specifically to Abby, I guess I would like to know, we made this same mistake. I've been in the party just about 60 years, and we made the same mistake as we did before the last election, is that we always cooperated with the Liberals. And it's always work to our disadvantage as it has really worked this time. Secondly, I haven't heard much about a fair tax system, not only a progressive tax system, but that includes all income. And why haven't we got that? And I'm really impressed with Mayor Mamdani in New York, who is putting a surcharge on the very wealthy. And he's doing it on all income. And he's also providing co-op or government food stores as well. And we should be doing like Saskatchewan does. And they, having lived there, I was a member of the co-op. We always did our shopping at a co-op, always appreciated the remittance I got at the end of every year from that co-op. Yeah. So thank you.
You still got a minute, Avi. Try and squeeze all of that in in a minute.
Well, Charles, we haven't always agreed on everything, but I'm delighted to agree with you today. Our campaign has been proposing 1% on the 1%, a wealth tax of 1% on the 1% wealthiest. It would generate between $25 and $39 billion a year. And that's just the first. That's only one piece of a fair taxation platform. But absolutely wealth taxes and going back to taxing more of the capital gains exemption, increasing that, lowering the exemption, increasing the amount of capital gains that are taxed. Absolutely. You know, we've been campaigning on public groceries. And you asked about minority governments. And I just want to stand up in defense of Heather and the others in the last caucus who won significant expansions to our healthcare system, the first in a generation, with the dental care program and the beginnings of a pharmacare program. Charles, you and I both didn't agree with it being means tested, the dental care. We didn't agree with it being delivered by a private insurance company. That's what our caucus was able to negotiate, or I think more accurately, the people in the leader's office who I think took the lead on that, which I think needs to change because we need to decentralize power from the leader's office. It's one of the main reasons that I'm running for
time, Avi. Thank you.
That was only a minute. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, but proportional representation, the next time we have him over the barrel, Charles, we're going for that one and no other.
Okay. Okay, another question. Let's try and make it to a different candidate so we can get each candidate answering a single one.
So my name is Sandra Michaels, and I have a question for Heather. One of my main concerns is the change in our political environment in Canada as a result of the old Reform Party and what's going on in Alberta right now. And I would like to know how you could address the disinformation, misinformation, and dealing with the media about what comes out of Alberta, because you're from Edmonton. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for your question. I'll highlight Heather 1 second. There we go. Heather, take it away.
Yeah, that's an excellent question because, you know, what's happening in Alberta right now is at risk of spreading across this country. What happened last week when Danielle Smith actually put in the biggest shift towards a private healthcare system is a massive challenge for all Canadians. If you don't think Scott Moe, Doug Ford, other conservative premiers are looking at that and thinking about how to replicate that, you know, that's what's going to happen. The fact that she's using the notwithstanding clause as some sort of like daily occurrence now in our province against trans kids, against 51,000 teachers, you know, that is a classic bully move. If you think that she, you know, what she is basically saying is if she can use it against anyone she wants, she can use it against workers, she can use it against anyone, she can take away anyone's rights. And so we all need to be standing up. Now, within the House of Commons, I have been pushing the government to intervene in court cases that will be going forward. I will be raising it in the House of Commons again this week.
That's time, Heather. Sorry, Heather.
That's all I have for.
Okay. Any questions for Rob or to Neil, please?
Or whoever.
That's dirty for them.
Okay. You can still ask it, I guess, but
Okay.
could you stand up, please? Yeah.
Yes.
Oh wait, I'm gonna highlight it so everyone viewing can watch. Sorry, we're very advanced with our technology here.
You can go ahead.
Going great.
Loud though.
Yeah, there we go. Just so they can see you.
Hi, my name is Kathy Kiss, and I wanted to ask Heather, since you're a member of parliament, is there any thought of challenging the notwithstanding clause in the Constitution so that the Canadian Charter of Rights is the paramount legislation and that the notwithstanding clause stops getting used for political means.
Okay, back to Heather.
Thanks. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is when we start to see premiers like Premier Legault, Premier Smith, when we start to see them using the notwithstanding clause to take away the rights of humans across this country, we need to stand up and fix that. You know, this was intended to be something that was a release valve. I mean, I've never agreed with the notwithstanding clause. I don't think it should be in our constitution. But the fact that it is now being used to say no one's rights are safe, no worker is safe, no individual is safe, means that we need to relook at that piece. Now, opening the Constitution is not easy. Of course, it's complicated, and it opens it up for other people to sort of do things within that Constitution. But it has to be done. We can't continue to allow conservative premiers and conservative governments all around to use the notwithstanding clause to take away the rights of individuals, to take away the rights of workers. It fundamentally changes our country. It's a fundamental attack on what it means to be Canadian.
Perfect timing. Any more questions from the floor? Anyone else?
Have anybody online?
Okay. Let's check the chat. Let's check the chat. Okay, I don't see any questions. Okay, well, since we have you guys here, I'm gonna ask my question, use my moderator privilege. I'm gonna
Probably last.
Kate's got a question.
Yeah, it will probably be the last question, and I'll direct it to all candidates. Sorry, Rob and Tennille, that you guys didn't get as much question time. But I am a young person. I'm 19 years old. I started working full-time at 14, and I first ran for office when I was 17, and then again when I was 18. And young people are really struggling right now. Young people used to be one of the pillars of the NDP, but have largely abandoned the party for a multitude of reasons. Here in BC, the voting age in the NDP is 12. What is each candidate's pitch to young people? How do you plan on winning back young people and empowering young people in our party? And I'm going to start with Tennille.
Yeah, in 1 minute. We got to show up. We got to show up. 80% of my time has been spent honestly on campuses, like meeting with student clubs, meeting with our student unions, sourcing out where those young people are at, hearing about where the challenges are, whether it's at a provincial organizing level or a federal organizing level. Our young people are feeling, like you said, completely left out, left behind, and like there's no room for them. We need to offer the resources for youth to come together, and we need them to feel like they're a meaningful part of the party, and that when we have policies, we're maybe running them past a youth council so that they can weigh in and tell us how it's going to impact them. Because arguably, the decisions that we're making now are going to affect our student population way more than they're going to impact me, and way more even than they're going to impact these tiny humans. The students are the in-between generation. They're not yes, they're the future, but they're the right now. They're the ones writing the papers on all these topics. They're doing all the work right now, and we're not using them in their expertise, and we're not leveraging their passion and commitment. And we have to. That is honestly one of our winning strategies. Is we're going to mobilize the student movement across the country.
Thank you, Tennille. Next, let's go with Avi.
I just want to acknowledge that Kate does have a question, and I think they should at least be able to ask it. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I'll do that after we do.
Great. I think, well, first of all, there are structural things we can do within the party, like the Youth Commission can have a special role in the policy process, which the Young New Democrats have a kind of a parallel process in most provincial sections and the federal party. And I also think that young candidates, when they run, we've occasionally had special funds to support Indigenous candidates, gender diverse and women candidates. And I think we should support young candidates as well, very specifically. But I also think that the straightforwardness of our communications, the boldness and scope and scale of our solutions, and our ability to communicate effectively, fast, and with a little bit of energy and passion is going to speak through social media to the youth audience, and we've already seen this on a lot of campaigns, like we did on the Mamdani campaign, and frankly, as we did in British Columbia just now, with the provincial Green Party had a very youthful candidate and a very youthful style of communication. And I think we can do a lot of that just with being straight with people and not too many weasel words.
Thank you, Avi. Next, I'm going to go with Heather.
Thank you. That's a great question. Listen, there's so many things that we can do to make sure that young people have a voice within our party. But part of it is going to where young people are, speaking to them, and putting forward proposals that will help young people with the struggles they're dealing with right now. You know, we have a jobs plan for young people that would help them get a job. You know, using a Canada Summer Jobs Program that's year round, that would get young people working in a climate corps or in trades or in the care economy. We've got a grant proposal that would bring forward an idea where each high school student would be able to access $6,000 to use for education, to use for college, for university, or an apprenticeship. There would be a supplement to help folks that live in remote or rural communities that need to buy tools for their apprenticeship. It would be tied to a mentorship program. Like, there's really big ideas what you can do about that. You know, making sure housing's affordable. That's something that young people need to know, that there is a plan to get them into housing, to get them a house, because for so many people across this country, they don't feel like that's in their future. And then finally, I'll just say really quickly, I brought forward a private members bill that was targeted solely at making post-secondary education more affordable and making that federal transfer tied directly to affordability for post-secondary education. And I think that's something we can be really pushing for. We can tie strings to the
That's
federal
time,
transfer.
Heather. Thank you,
Thank
Heather.
you.
Now, Rob, please.
You bet. 3 quick points here. We got to get back into high schools, universities, colleges, and actually meet with them and utilize their skills. Young New Democrats or young people in general. The college and university groups that they have on campuses now, we actually have to have conversations with them. We have to work with them, learn from them, give them help, and allow them to give us guidance instead of ignoring them. And then lastly, we got to prove to this next generation that's coming up that we are there for them, that we are going to fight for them, that we will find them good jobs, that we will have housing for them, that we will have the affordability crisis we're currently in, a solution to it. But we're going to have to prove ourselves, and we're going to have to bust our humps to prove it to them. Thanks.
Thank you so much. I'm going to go to Katie. If you'd like to ask your question, you can just unmute yourself and say it.
Too, right?
Yeah, I'll do one more after this.
Well,
Kate, did you want to ask your question?
I didn't unmute myself. First, I just want to make a comment about your comment about people who came in person rather than on Zoom to be able to ask their question. I have a disability and it's invisible, and I'm in extreme pain from a flare-up from the convention that I was just at. So I think you need to be very mindful of your comments, because I found that a little disrespectful. Because my question is for Rob, as someone coming from the union face, what do you consider working class? Because I have a union position, but I grew up in poverty and I was always an NDP supporter. I was raised to be one. And if I never voted for NDP, my mom would come back and kill me. So my partner works at the mill here on the Sunshine Coast, and he makes a good wage, but it's not middle class anymore. And they are being left out of the conversation. And a lot of these people aren't voting NDP anymore because of that. That's my question.
But thanks for the question.
But
So,
Rob, before you, I'm just gonna quickly respond. I'm really sorry if you interpreted it as ableist. I also live with an invisible disability. That was not my intention. It's just trying to do the Zoom with managing the questions and whatever, and going to the chats. And I'm trying to not show people's chats that aren't question related. And it's just was a little easier to go through the questions in person first. I'm really sorry if it came off that way. That was not my intention. And thank you for asking your question anyway. And thank you for coming on Zoom. And thank you for coming to the convention this weekend. I'm really sorry if it came off that way, and thank you for your question. And to Rob, I'm gonna spotlight you before you talk, Rob, just so we can see you. There we go, Rob.
Yeah,
Take it
so
away.
I get to ask this question a lot. Working class to me, and I hope to the rest of the candidates and the parties, is everybody that does not own the means of production. So it's people that can go to work, people that for whatever reason don't have a job, people that with disabilities, people that are on old age security, indigenous members of indigenous nations, members of the LGBTQI plus community, everybody that falls within the 99%. I don't believe there's such a thing as a middle class. I believe that there's working class and then there's the ruling class. The middle class is something that was made up and invented by liberals and conservatives to force us to make us strive for something better. If we can work just a little bit harder, we can get into the middle class, but there's no such thing as the middle class. It's the working class versus the ruling class. And this truly is a class war. So if you're not a part of the ruling class, if you're not a part of the 1%, you are a member of the working class, and we will fight like hell to protect us all because a rising tide raises all ships. And that's what we have to do as a country. That's my version of the working class. There's no such thing as a middle class, just working class versus ruling class in this class war. Thanks, Kate. Appreciate the question.
Thank you, Rob. We're just about done now, but I'm gonna give the candidates a chance to do closing statements, and I'm gonna give them 2 minutes for it, and I'm also gonna give kind of a prompting question for it, so they can maybe, if they want, do 1 minute answering the final question and then a minute with their closing, or however they want to do it. They have 2 minutes, they can just talk. But my kind of base level prompt is a lot of communities have very strong provincial NDP bases. Here on the Sunshine Coast, we're a safe seat provincially, but federally, we're considered an unwinnable district. How do you plan on building from those strong NDP provincial bases and making that go federal? And then also, please give your closing final pitch to all of our members here. And let's start with Heather McPherson.
There, did that unmute me? There you go. Listen, that's a great question. Thank you. And I really appreciated this conversation today. I always appreciate being on calls with my colleagues that are also putting their names forward. I'm very grateful to all of them for doing that and putting forward their vision of the party. Listen, in 2019, when I ran for the first time in Edmonton Strathcona, Rachel Notley wasn't sure she was going to be able to support me. She wasn't sure she was going to be able to support the federal NDP. And I made it my mission to rebuild that relationship to the point where on my launch in September, Rachel Notley stood at my launch and endorsed me as her choice for the leader. We need to rebuild our party. We need to rebuild our relationships with our provincial counterparts. Because you're right, across the country, the provincial parties are doing very, very well, and we have to stop being an anchor for them. We have to be working together to support them because the things that we believe in now, and I understand it's not 100% that we always all believe the same thing, but the things that we do believe in as New Democrats, the idea of taking care of your neighbors, the idea of taking care of our planet, of taking care of our healthcare system, of ensuring that our communities are built in a way that everyone can thrive, that we have a role in the world to build a more peaceful planet for everyone. Those values that make us New Democrats, those are the things we need to be working together on. We need to be standing strong because Canadians need that. My proposition for this leadership race is that I want to win. I want more New Democrats to get elected. I want more New Democrats to get elected every single election because when New Democrats get elected, better things happen for Canadians. Better things happen for workers, better things happen for young people, better things happen for all Canadians. And that's why we need to build a bigger table. We need to speak to Canadians where they're at. We need to put forward a proposition that is both hopeful, realistic, and ambitious. And that's my pitch to all members of the NDP. Thank you.
Perfectly on time. Great job staying perfectly on time, Heather. Next, let's go with Rob Ashton. Give me a second to spotlight you. There we go. Take it away, Rob.
So my closing, and then I'll answer your question in the middle of my closing or near the end of it. Like, we can't keep letting liberals and conservatives keep eating our lunch, right? They're stealing our people. They're lying to us at the polls, but we keep electing them. In working class votes, they beat us in urban votes and rural votes. This is why I'm fighting to bring us back to our roots. I'm fighting to have our voices heard. Yeah, just like everybody else, I want as many NDP MPs in every province. I want working class voices in Ottawa, both in provinces and in our territories. We got to spread the message of hope to fight the messages of hate that are coming from the right wing. We have to teach people how to love, not hate your neighbor, but love your neighbor. Point the anger and hate where it belongs, and that's at Ottawa, that's at our capital cities. Governments that do not do anything for us except blame your neighbor. Well, I'm done with that. I'm tired of that. And we're going to change it. Now, how do we win voters back? We have to prove ourselves. Prove that we're going to be unapologetically loud and arguing and fighting against those other parties that wish to hold us down and wish to choke us off and teach us to hate people. We have to be able to send the message that hope wins, love wins. We have to prove to them that we will get them their jobs, that we will create an economy based in Canada for Canada. And we're going to have to do it hard. We're going to have to do it every day. And we're going to have to be loud every day and be proud of being loud. And that's what we're going to do. And that's how we're going to win voters back in this country. Thanks, Jaeger. Thank you, everybody, for the time. And I appreciate you all.
Thank you, Rob. Next, I'm going to go to Neil Johnston. There we go. Take it away.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah, there is a giant trench between the federal and provincial parties and territorial part. We know this. I believe we need to be looking at our provinces and our territories as the huge asset that they are. We need to be showing up to support at conventions. We need to be showing up to support during and in between elections. Our MLAs should be attached at our hips because they can feed us information from what's going on the ground. Their riding areas are smaller than ours. They're arguably closer to the constituents than we are. That is a huge opportunity for us to be leveraging at a federal level. Arguably, the job that we do at a federal level should be supporting and enabling our provinces and territories to take care of our people. Like, this is where our healthcare is at, right? These are where, the housing is attempting to happen currently. We do need a federal building plan. We do need federal builders. We're never going to get there with private development. But all of our information can be fed to us in such a beautiful way from our provinces and our territories, and it's so easy and it's right there, and we just need to show up and respect them as partners and do that work. In regards to winning, we should be knocking on doors during our provincial counterparts elections. Aaron Gunn was out 2 years before our election, knocking side by side their conservative MLA candidates, and it was gut-wrenching for me to watch that happen, to be sitting there knowing that I was going to run for candidacy and not be able to do much about it. It was really, really torturous, to be honest. We have to avoid that. We have to educate our areas on what your unique political geography is. We did an impressive over 26,000 votes in my riding, in a rural riding where people had to travel who knows how far to get to their ballot box in some cases. So we did phenomenal, but the vote split. We didn't have the education out there on what the Liberals looked like in North Island, Powell River, and we got screwed because of it. So we need the education out there. We need our people to know exactly how they sit in their political geography, and we need to be picking away at those ridings that are close and really supporting those ones that maybe are third and fourth, but the value that one person has to another is so high. So we're so ready to hit the ground running. This gets me really excited. So thank you so much, Jaeger. Thank you for being a rural community hosting us. It means the world.
Thank you, Sunil. And last but not least, let's go to Avi Lewis. Give us your final thoughts, Avi.
Thank you. Political geography. That's exactly right, Tennille. I love the way you put that. And I am a huge fan of getting to work in provincial elections alongside our provincial New Democrats, as are all the other candidates. But I'm going to distinguish myself a little from the views of my colleagues. I ran twice in British Columbia, and I know there's a lot of disaffection with our BC NDP government. And I think our path back as the federal party is not to try to replicate what our provincial sections do, which is successful in their political context, because our national context is completely different. In Manitoba, in Saskatchewan, in Alberta, in British Columbia, our New Democratic provincial comrades are staring over the trench at the extreme right, and there is no Liberal Party in between. We do not have a three-party system in every province in this country. And where NDP provincial governments win, where the provincial NDPs win, it's where they're able to represent a bigger tent, because there isn't a Liberal Party to differentiate. Nationally, that is not the case. And so what I've been developing on our campaign, and I took a big stand against LNG this past week because the Sea Listens project is a nightmare for a lot of people on the North Coast, and a lot of people throughout this province, and a lot of people in this country who do not believe that we should be expanding fossil fuels at all, especially for an American-owned and operated project where the infrastructure is built in Korea, and there are Trumpian billionaire bad guys who are actually benefiting from LNG in British Columbia. We need to be able to say to our BC NDP government, we love you, we support you, we're proud of you on the North Coast tanker ban, we're 100% in on that. We love what you're doing on housing and a lot of other things around a progressive taxation system, but we have a difference of opinion when it comes to fossil fuels and pipelines and LNG. And well, pipelines, we agree with the BC NDP government right now, but we really need to be able to disagree between provincial and federal sections, do it lovingly, supportingly. If you're mistaken about why we can have disagreements in the New Democratic family, it's right in the name. We're a Democratic Party, and we are allowed to have disagreements on individual issues within our family. And that, I think, is key to the federal party coming back to have a clear climate policy and many other policies that might not be exactly the same as our provincial sections. Thanks, everyone, for coming. This was a wonderful meeting. Sorry if we were a little burned out after 2 hours of Saskatchewan, but the coast brought us back to life. You could see that. Thank you.
Thank you, Avi. Before all the candidates leave, I wanted to say thank you all for coming. I would also like to remind everyone watching the video, there is a fifth candidate, Tony McQuail, who unfortunately wasn't able to come today, but I would encourage everyone to check out his website and social medias and past speeches. And yeah, just everyone say hi to our candidates, say hi to our people that came.
Hi, everyone. Nice to see you all.
Yeah, thank you all for coming. And now we're going to
let our candidates go.
Yeah, we'll let the candidates go and we'll move into just the local members portion of our AGM. So
long, everyone. Thank you.
Everyone.
Thanks,
Thank you
Jaeger.
so
Thanks,
much.
Bill.
Thanks, guys.
Bye,
See
folks.
you. Bye.